Welcome. Yes, Brooke, that's good. Tim Tebow. I like it. I'll remember that one. Yeah. Welcome to Icon. My name's Dan. Really excited to be with you guys today. Glad you guys are joining us here on this day, that also a day that has great football. Anybody excited for some football games here in a little bit? Yes. I know we have some Minnesota fans in the house as well, so they're pretty excited. Man, here's the thing. I am thrilled for so many reasons today. One of them is we're wrapping up our series that we've been in for the past few weeks called Small Things, Big Difference. And in week one, Steve kind of gave us the ground rules. He kind of gave us this great line that's kind of been the undercurrent of this whole series. And I want to put this up here. He said it's the small things that no one sees that result in the big things that everyone wants. This is the premise of this series, Small Things, Big Difference, because we all want big things in life. And oftentimes you start the year, New Year's, and you have these dreams, these desires. Maybe for work, you're setting some goals, you're doing some different things, and you're laying out what you want this year to be like. You're looking back at last year saying, man, maybe it was a great year and I want to build on that. Maybe you look back at 2017, you're like, good riddance, see you later 2017. Like, I want 2018 to be a new year. I want these new things. And you want these big things that people are going to see. But the truth of the matter is that it's actually small things that no one is going to see that will make that difference in your life. So that's what we've been talking about over the past couple weeks. And the thing I'm going to be talking about today, I just want to be honest and upfront. When I say it, you're going to think, wait, what? Like, that is not, I can't see the kind of impact that's going to have on me. We're going to talk about that in church. It's just going to feel very like, I don't know. But I want you to stay with me, and I want you to just kind of follow me, because I believe actually what we're talking about today, the third part to the series, could actually have more of an impact on your life and would have more of an impact on your life than anything else moving forward if you really apply it, and you really take this and do something with it as we go out from here. And the thing we're going to be talking about today is friendship. Now, here's the thing. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, friends? Like, okay, all right, we're talking about friendship. You know, Barney's going to come out, and, you know, like you're like, what on earth? Like, again, you got to follow me, because here's the thing. For me, this idea of friendship and the impact that it does have on our lives really shifted for me when I went to Bible school, because a mentor of mine told me, she said this, and this has always stuck with me. She said, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And I heard that and I thought about that for a minute, and I thought, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And what she was saying, what she was getting at, is the people that you surround yourself with are going to chart your path moving forward. And some of you with young kids, middle schoolers, and teenagers read this and you're like, oh, God, help me. You're like, oh, this is not good, right? You know, and we see this, and if we look at our own lives and we think about the friends that we've surrounded ourselves with, we can probably see a little bit of this truth in it, can't we? You could probably walk into almost any middle school, high school, college campus, and you see this playing itself out. You've probably maybe even experienced this. Maybe you went to college and you started running with a certain group of friends, and you realized that those friends started directing your path. You started hanging out with friends that, you know, loved to study, and you worked real hard, then maybe you started studying more. If you hung out with everyone else, then like you realized that things went the other direction, you know? And the friends that we surround ourselves with really shape us. In fact, there's this famous quote by a guy named Charlie Jones, and he put it this way. He said, you will be the same person in 5 years as you are today, except for the people you meet and the books you read. That you will be the same person 5 years from now, except for these two things, the people you meet and the books you read. Some of you are sitting there right now thinking like, I hate books. I'm in trouble, right? Like, I need to go to mixers. I need to meet all kinds of people, because I'm definitely not getting on the books end. Like, I need to figure something out, some networking groups, and figure some way to meet more people. You see, the thing is, and I would argue that actually the truer statement of this wouldn't be just the people you meet. Because, come on, I've met people that have had very little effect on my life. The way I would phrase this is the friends you keep in the books you read. Because though I've met someone that hasn't had an effect on my life, I've never had a friend that hasn't had an effect on my life. See, all of our friends, the friends that we allow into our life, they have an impact on our life, and they really can shape us positively or negatively. It's kind of ironic that we're talking about this this week for me. As I started preparing this message, I was thinking about this in my life, the friends that I have in my life. And this is actually a really timely message for me to talk about. These past couple weeks have been just kind of rough weeks. Have you ever had just some bad weeks and you're like, oh, cool, let's just keep piling it on, And it's like more bad things happen. You're like, oh, cool, it's been a good week anyway. It's been just kind of one of those weeks, just kind of a down week. And I realized, I need good friends in my life right now. In fact, so much so that I'm like, you know what? I want to hang out with some friends. So last night, I got together with some friends, and we just hung out. We didn't do anything super spiritual. We didn't do anything we just spent time together. And just the fact of me getting to spend time with friends and be myself and not have to feel like, oh, Pastor Dan, just be Dan, I needed that. And I got that. And then, in fact, in just 2 days, on Tuesday, I will fly out to a group of friends that is this kind of accountability group that I've been in for over 10 years now. These are friends that we went to Bible school together, and we've been doing this for over 10 years, where once a month we all jump on a conference call and call each other, and twice a year we fly to where one of the people are at. There's a guy in Canada, a guy in Illinois, in Kentucky, a guy in Florida. So in the winter we go to Florida, and then in the summer we go to other places, and we just twice a year we get together and we talk about life. We talk about ministry. We talk about what's going on. So the guys that have had one of the biggest impact on my life, these are the group of friends. Scary, I know. You're thinking these are Dan's friends, Dan is in trouble, really big. This group of guys, I can't tell you the amount of times that, been the highest of highs and talked and laughed and spent time with and joked around, the lowest of lows. When we get together, it's the best of times and the worst of times. We really like to give each other a hard time. In fact, a few years ago, we rented scooters in Florida, and like you do, and we were driving around this island, and I shouldn't say this up here, but anyway, we would drive these scooters, and we'd pull in front of each other and then lock up the brakes for the person behind, so the person behind was getting out of the way, and it was great fun. We were laughing really hard until one guy was turned around talking to someone else when the person locked up their brakes, and he hit the other scooter, dumped it on the ground, and we just laughed as he drug it off the road. We didn't even help him. But it's those kinds of friends. We all need those kinds of friends, right? That will just laugh and cry as you just hurt yourself. At least for me, I know I need friends that I can just hang out with, and then we can have moments like that. And then we can have moments where we're just, hey man, I'm going through a really difficult time. And I'm really struggling in this area. My church is struggling. My marriage is struggling. And we can just be honest and open with. You see, those kinds of relationships, the Bible actually has a name for this. And there's this ancient proverb that I want to put up here. It's Proverbs 27:17. It says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. So one man sharpens another. You see, a book can make you smarter, but only a person can actually make you sharper. Only another person can look at your life and say, yeah, you read that, but did you really apply it to your life? Are you actually getting better with the knowledge you're gaining? See, only another person that you allow into your life that closely can really have that kind of impact, can have that kind of effect on your life. See, it's other people, it's those relationships, it's those friendships. You might look at that and you might hear, well, that's great, Dan, that you met some guys in Bible college and, and now you guys have been doing this for 10 years, but how does that apply to my life? I work 9 to 5 and I get home and I've got the kids and they're doing homework and I'm putting them in bed and I don't have time for those kinds of relationships in my life. And you have this question, how do you cultivate those kinds of relationships? How do you cultivate iron sharpens iron friendships? How do you do that? And that's really what we want to talk about today. I don't want to teach you how to meet people. Listen, say hello and stick your hand out and look them in the eye. It's not about how you meet people, but how do you cultivate those kinds of friendships and relationships? That's what we want to focus on. The first part of this is you have to understand just how important it is. How much of an impact it is. And listen, throughout the Bible, there are countless stories of friendships and relationships of people in the Bible that needed those kinds of friendships. One of the most famous friendships, if you look in the Bible for these kind of iron sharpens iron friendships, are King David and his friend Jonathan. And I Google search, because a real friend will carry a head for you, right? That is true friendship. Like, bro, I got your head. You don't have to carry it. Let me get this for you. Like, I Google searched like David and Jonathan for like an image, and this is what came up, and I'm like, oh, I am so using this. I could find another one, I'm sure, but I want the one where he's carrying his head, right? Like that's friendship, because we've all killed someone, and you need a friend to carry the head, you know? So that's, I guess, what the moral of this Bible story is. I don't know where I'm going, right? So like, there's countless stories of this. There's another one, Moses and Aaron. He was an early leader of this, like, it looks like he had a bit of a bender, right? Like Moses had a few too many, and his friends are like taking him to the Uber, right? That's in Exodus somewhere, I think. No. What's really happening in this picture is God had told Moses that as long as he keeps his hands up, that Israel would win this war. And he was keeping his hands up, and he couldn't do it anymore. He couldn't keep his arms up anymore. And Aaron and his friend Hur came around him and held his arms up. And the moral behind what this is getting at is there will be times in our life that you want to do something, that you feel God is calling you to do something, that you try something that you can't do on your own. That if you go out there trying to keep your hands up on your own, you try to do it on your own, you will fail. That you need friends around you that can hold your arms up for you. See, we need those kinds of relationships. And you see, and you may not know, maybe you're not in church and you're like, I've never heard of like Aaron and Hur and Moses and David and Jonathan. I've never heard of. There's so many more stories like this. If you grew up in church, you maybe have heard some of these. There's Elijah and Elisha. There's Ruth and Naomi. There's a guy named Paul, and he has several friends like this. There's Silas and Barnabas and Timothy. There's these relationships that are important. I mean, Jesus himself, he had 12 disciples that were close friends, and even of that 12, there were 3 that were even closer, and of that 3, 1, there were these close kinds of relationships that even Jesus had. I'd argue if Jesus had these kinds of relationships, if all these people throughout biblical history had these kinds of friendships and relationships, that we too need this. But that's not just it. There's also all kinds of proverbs and parables and Bible verses. I mean, let me hit on just a couple. In Proverbs, there's one, 13:20, says, walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fool suffers harm. The next verse, there's another one, Proverbs 27:5-6. Better is open rebuke than a hidden love. Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. Man, how true is this, right? So what is a true friend? A true friend is somebody that'll stab you in the front, right? Like, they're not going to stab you in the back. They'll look you in the eye and they say, listen, you messed up. You shouldn't have done that. And they will be honest, an honest, open rebuke. Or Proverbs 17:17, it says this. It says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a time of adversity. Isn't that true, man? Sometimes when you're going through a time of adversity, all you need is that friend to come alongside. It's like they were made for this, to stand beside you in the midst of this. But it's not just like, hey, positive friendships. There's also some warnings in the Bible about other kinds of friendships that can actually pull you down. In 1 Corinthians, it says this. It says, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. Some of us are like writing this down to show to our children. Like, I just want to remind you, bad company, Jim, he's going to pull you down, right? Corrupts good character, right? And this is true. I mean, it also says another place in Proverbs, it says, do not make friends with a hot-tempered person. Do not associate with one easily angered, or you may learn their ways and get yourself ensnared. What's this saying? You become like the people that you spend time with. Again, in Proverbs, another one, it says, one who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. See, this is so true. And here's the thing. Nothing I'm saying up here, like when you hear about David and Jonathan, or you hear about, all these different people, it's not like, oh, I guess he has a point there. I guess he must be right. Oh, sure, Dan, I wasn't going to buy it before, but you read those verses, so now I believe it. And nobody thinks like that. Do you know why you believe this is true? Why this just reinforces what you already know? Listen, it's not true because it happened at one time in the Bible. Like, oh, it happened thousands of years ago, so that means it's true. It's true because it happens. Like, it happens every single day in our lives. We know this to be true because we've experienced this. I've talked to people recently in the past few days that have said, I need some friends right now. Like, I need friendship. I'm not good at this whole friendship thing. And we've experienced this. Maybe for you, you've had that kind of relationship. You had that kind of friendship. And then, you know, it was one that you could go deep, that you could be honest, be yourself with. And then that person moved or you moved. You felt the pain of not having that relationship. Maybe something happened, you got into an argument, and there was this separation, this kind of tearing of the relationship, and you know the pain of not having that. Or maybe you've seen other people with those kinds of friends, those kinds of relationships, and you're like, I need a Joey to my Chandler. You know, like I need that kind of friendship in my life. Like, how do you watch that and you're like, I want to sit in a coffee shop all day. Like, I want that, you know, and we see it in other people and we're like, I don't know how to get that, but I want that kind of friendship. And you know, maybe you've experienced kind of being pulled down by some friends and you felt that before. See, this is true because we've all experienced it before. And what I decided to do is I wanted to give you kind of looking at that friendship, that accountability group, that group of friends that I have that I'll see just in a couple of days. Literally, we were texting each other before this service talking. Though I've been able to look at that friendship and go, how did we do that? How were we able to, for 10 years, to be able to have that kind of relationship and friendship? And I boiled down kind of 3 keys to developing those kinds of pivotal friendships, those kinds of relationships that really can affect you positively moving forward. And this is the thing, if you can learn to apply this to your life, if you can learn to say, you know what, I need more of this in my life, and you can really do these things, I really believe that this has the ability to change the trajectory of your life, to really make a huge impact. So first, I'm just going to give you kind of the 3 answers, and then we'll kind of break them down each one. The first one is you're going to have to use intentionality. It's going to take you being intentional about these relationships. These kinds of relationships and friendships don't just fall in your lap. They're not just going to happen by default. You're not just going to show up and all of a sudden someone's like, hey, want to be my Iron Sharpens Iron best friend? No, that guy's creepy. You leave him alone, right? Like, it doesn't happen like that. It takes time and intentionality. And then when you can be intentional for a while about it and try to build that kind of relationship, then the second thing it's going to take is it's going to take consistency. Just over time, being consistent with that kind of friendship. And you decide that you're going to go the long haul, that you're going to commit to this and be consistent. And then the third thing is honesty. That when you can have those other 2 elements, when you've been intentional, when you're being consistent, then you can learn to be honest with those people and really let them in and see who you really are. So let's break these down. This first one, intentionality. What intentionality looks like. Here's what this looks like. It looks different for everyone. There's different types of people, and they're wired differently. And here's what I mean by example. How many of you in this room are extroverts? You are energized by being around people. Yes, you're loud. Absolutely. Yes, you have no problem raising your hand. For you guys, your challenge will be like to actually really go deep with people. Because here's what extroverts do. And I know this because I am one, right? You're friends with this whole room. Right? Like, you're like, I'm friends with everyone. I don't know their name, but I am friends with everyone, right? And you're like, you walk out of here and you're like, I met 10 people. Your wife's like, awesome. Yeah. What are their names? I don't care, but we're buddies. We're getting together, right? Like, you don't go deep at all, but man, you love to get to know people and you're out there. But the challenge for you will be to go deep and to be intentional about going deep with someone. To not be a mile wide and an inch deep in your relationships, but to learn to go below the surface. And that for you will take intentionality, because that's not how you're naturally wired. And then there's those of you in this room who are introverts. And I'm not even going to ask you to raise your hand because you wouldn't anyway, right? Like, you would just lie and go, nope, I'm neither, And you already were feeling anxiety about having to raise your hand, and you're like, I don't want people to think I'm introverted because I don't like them, but, I don't, and you're wrestling with it. You introverts are the people that, like, when the host person says, like, greet people around you, you take a strategic bathroom break, right? You've learned they're going to say greet people around you, and you're like, I'm out, like, this is my time. The bathroom lines just fill up at that time. Like, I get it. All of a sudden, you got to look in your purse for something, like, I got to do something down here so I don't have to meet people in it's over already. What? I get it, right? I'm married to an introvert, right? So I totally understand this. The challenge for you will be to actually be intentional about meeting new people. Because if you don't have this kind of friendship right now, it could be that you know those people and you just need to go below the surface with those friends that you already have. But the other challenge may be you may not have those friends yet, so you're going to have to actually seek that out and be intentional about that. You see, that's challenging, and for a lot of introverts, once they have that close kind of relationship, they absolutely can go deep. But their challenge is not taking 75 years to get there. right? To actually be proactive about doing that. So that will be your challenge. And once you've done that, once you've been intentional and you seek this out, and listen, I've had that same mentor that said, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. One thing that she said is, she said there's been times in her life that she needed friendship so bad, she went to people and said, you know what, I need you to be a friend to me right now. I need some friendship in my life, and just asked for it. Listen, if it takes that kind of intentionality, I get it, that's hard, that's scary, but if we really see the impact that this can have on our lives, it's worth it. Every single time, it's worth it. So once you've been intentional, the next thing you need is you need consistency. You need to decide, you know what, I'm going to go the long haul. I'm going to be consistent with these people over the long haul. If that group of guys, if the 6 of us, if when we started making these calls, because it was kind of awkward. At first, there was one guy that kind of put the group together. He was our pastor. He was kind of a mentor of ours. And he kind of called us and said, hey, would you guys be interested in this? He was intentional about creating this group, and we would do these conference calls. And at first, it was kind of awkward. It was like, hi, so what's new? You know, and it's like, it gets weird, and I get it. You might make some of these friendships, and you sit down, and the first time you guys get together over coffee, it's awkward, and you're like, so, how about those Patriots? Hate them, you know? And you're like, you don't know where to go with that, you know? It's just weird. It takes time to build that, but you have to be consistent over time. If on those calls, if one week one of the guys would have forgotten and said, you know what, I can't make it work, and then the next week somebody else, or the next month rather, somebody else can't make it, and we lose that consistency, you're not going to be able to develop this kind of friendship, this kind of relationship. And once you've done that, the last part is honesty. And here's the thing, with honesty, let me get real specific what I mean by honesty. What I mean is vulnerability. I'm talking about transparency and truth-telling, that you get gut-level honest with these types of iron sharpens iron relationships. And I'll never forget when I was kind of faced with this reality that, was I going to have these kinds of friendships or just fake it? It was about 7 years ago in this group, and at the time I was working at a church. In fact, that guy that I talked about that kind of put the group together, his name's Jeremy, I was working for him. So he was my boss, he was my pastor, and he was in this accountability group with me. And we go to Florida, and it's in January, and we're talking about our dreams. And Jeremy sits down, and he says, hey, what are your dreams for the year? What do all you guys want to do? What in your ministries, in your lives, what are some goals for you for this year? Let's just dream together and talk about this, which was great. That's a great thing to do with a group like this. The only problem was, though I was working for him, I felt extremely unfulfilled, underutilized, not really enjoying my job, and quite honestly, I wanted to leave that job and pursue something else. So they're starting to go around the group, and my boss is sitting there, and they're all saying these dreams, and I'm thinking, do I just lie? Because listen, I can, right? I can make it up. I can lie with the best of them, right? I could talk about my dreams for the ministry. God, hold on. Oh, God's speaking to me now. You know, I could have come up with something. I could have said something and made it sound good, moved on, and listen, and probably nothing would have come of that. But I realized these are the kinds of friends that I want to be honest with, that I can really be transparent with and vulnerable with. So it came around to me, and I said, honestly, I could say some stuff. I could make some stuff up about my dreams, but I really don't have a whole lot of dreams and goals for the ministry I'm in right now, quite honestly, because I feel like God's leading me to do something else. See, it was there that I really first told the dream that I had a dream of partnering with a team of people to start a church from scratch. Icon was my dream at that point. And I had a chance to kind of talk about that, and it was scary because I didn't know if it was going to be oh, that's a cool dream. You can pick up your severance check on the way home, right? Good luck, buddy. You know, I didn't know what would come of that. And quite honestly, it was a little awkward. I got done, and Jeremy's well, maybe if we did this and moved this around, and he was trying to make it work, and I was listen, I feel called to do something else. But I was able to be transparent and vulnerable, and it's really there that this dream really began. And it's really there that this dream really began to take hold, because it was those guys, when it was discouraging, when it was hard, when I didn't think I could do it anymore, that came around me and encouraged me and supported me emotionally, spiritually. They prayed for me. Financially, they supported me. It was those guys that made that happen. You see, I would argue that our future is shaped less by our dreams and ambitions of what we'll do for God, and more by the company we choose to keep in the present. It's more those friendships that we keep that make an impact. And Icon, we want to find a way to create those kinds of relationships, create environments and opportunities for those relationships to be built. That's why you hear us say so often that at Icon, we believe that circles are better than rows. And what we mean by this is rows are great. Rows are what you're all sitting in right now. It's great to be challenged and hopefully encouraged to go out there and do something, but a circle is actually better than that. Because in a circle, you can be honest and talk back and have a conversation. See, I can't have a conversation with 200 people at once, but I can have a conversation with 7, 8, 9, 10 people. And that's what we believe, that it's where conversation happens. See, I said, sermons, they're going to inspire you, but it's community that shapes you. It's community that really shapes you. You can be inspired here, but you're shaped by community. And that's why we do something called small groups here at Icon. A small group is just a group that's small, right? It's just a group of people that get together on a regular basis, and some weekly, and some every other week, and some monthly, and they get together and they go into each other's homes and they do life together. They talk together, they eat together, they discuss things, they build these kinds of friendships. And I thought I could talk to you about this, or I could let you kind of see what it looks like when you start a small group. So we recorded a quick little video from a couple of friends of mine. So I want to show you their experience at our small group that we run. So this is Roy and Diana.
Well, I remember the first night that we got together, and we didn't know anything about each other. And we would just start talking and enjoying the food and each other, and we just find ourselves having that joy, and that all that joy came out, and we all said at the end of the night, we said we needed this.
Hello, I'm Roy, and this is my wife Diana, and we've been attending Icon Church for about a year now. One of the reasons that we enjoy the small group is that we don't have our biological family all nearby, so our group serves as extended family.
Yeah.
So we use our group to minister or to be ministered.
At the beginning, I was kind of nervous to come because it's always, you don't know, the group, you don't know the people. So, but after that, it's like walking in faith. You walk into somebody's house by faith because you don't know anybody and you don't know what it's the relationships that you're going to have with them. And this time it's been incredible for me because I felt joy. I found joy with the group.
It's easier to walk into someone's home than it is to walk into church for the first time. And the friendship is just everlasting. The friendship is phenomenal. It just goes on. And the food is good too.
What I would say is just join and be yourself. Like, you don't have to talk if you don't want to. You can just listen, or if you want to talk, somebody's listening to you, but it's so much easier just to walk into somebody's house and just be yourself.
See, that's the challenge, is just to find an environment, to find a place that you can really just be yourself. You can find these kinds of friendships, these kinds of people that can encourage you and come around you. See, I realize in a room this big, you can't always find that kind of connection, that kind of relationship. Because I get it, some of you have kids and you got to pick them up and there's things to do and you have to get out of here, and you don't get a chance to get around other people for a prolonged period of time and really build that kind of relationship. And that's what small group is for. Heard him talk about family, and it really can become that. But at the same time, I don't want you to be scared away and like, oh, man, I don't want to walk into a place and they're like, welcome to the family. Like listen, it's a great place. If you don't know a lot of people in the church, it's a great place to come and just meet people and just make friends. I'll never forget, you heard Diana talk about it a little bit, but the first time our small group got together, we kind of had a little bit of relationship, Kelly and I, with them, but all of us together, we weren't friends at first. Some of us were acquaintances, but some people were meeting at that first small group. And I'll never forget, about halfway through the night, the girls are in the kitchen, the guys are in the living room, and we're all talking. And the girls are like dying laughing, and then they were crying, and then they were like, and instantly I just looked around and was like, yes, this is what it's about. Meeting people and having friendships and getting together, and then having opportunities to get together outside of small group and really develop those friendships. And it's had an impact on me in just the amount of time that we've had this small group. But over the years, small groups in my life have made a tremendous impact on who I am today because of those small groups. So I want to encourage you to consider joining one. In a minute, the band is going to play a couple more songs, and I want you to think about joining a small group. And I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, well, man, I'm really busy. Dan, our kids are involved in things. I've got things going on. I don't have time for it. Or maybe you're thinking, listen, I don't really want, I've got friends. I'm good. I don't need that. But you have these kinds of relationships. Are the friendships you have truly iron sharpens iron? Do you have someone in your life that is encouraging you to be a better follower of Jesus? Because if you don't, you need that. Every one of us needs that. You might be thinking like, Dan, I don't want people to get to know the real me. That's kind of part of it. I like coming here and I can sit wherever and people don't know me. Listen, we need that. The reason I know those things is those are thoughts that I've had before. I've thought, I don't have time for this. I'm good. I've got these relationships. But I know for me, I need to be in a small group. And that's why I love being involved in a small group here at Icon. And I want to encourage all of you to consider that. So as the band plays, you can do that. But then you probably saw it on your way in, but we've got a small group rally that's going to be happening after this service. There's tables set up outside of all the different small groups that Icon offers, the nights they meet on, the times they meet, what kind of group they are, or the age groups, or the, whatever makes that group unique, so you can connect with them and find out if there's a good fit for you. And I want to encourage you to do that. Would you join a small group today? And it doesn't have to be a life sentence. Maybe you can just check it out just for a semester. For one semester where you connect and see if maybe that's a good fit for you. And if it's not, you can find another small group. But you're being what? You're being intentional. And then you're committing to be consistent over time. And then finally, over time, you could learn to do exactly what Diana said and just be yourself. Be honest and transparent. I can't tell you the kind of impact that that's going to have on your life when you do that. So I want to encourage you to check out those small groups after service, after the band's done playing. Let me pray for you. God, I thank you so much for this group.